Hey, hey, hey!
Ooh,
How's it
after
going?
after a brief hiatus, we are back
We're
live again,
back!
right?
We are live. We are live on LinkedIn. We are live on Instagram, and we are live on YouTube. And we are
Oh,
talking about glass ceilings today.
ooh, that is a very loaded question. That could go in a lot of different directions,
So many ways.
right? What?
But this is
What?
top of mind for me because you and I just went through like a leadership training that was like
Mhm,
highly intense, right?
mhm.
So that's what I
Sure.
wanted to talk.
Okay. So glass ceilings, like whether it's you as a leader or as an organization, what are the maybe assumptions that you're making or the blind spots that you have about what you can and cannot do and what your limits are,
Yeah,
right? That's the
exactly.
idea. This is why coaches are so powerful because they push you to break through these glass ceilings, these false beliefs, all this
Right?
type of stuff, right?
And
And
and that is the crux of it.
mhm,
Because it's a false belief, you believe it, so you don't see it. You don't see it, and like you said, it's a blind spot. It's completely, for all intents and purposes, you think you know, right? And I remember when I never thought business coach as like, yeah, 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 business coach. Like my engineering ego
mhm,
was like, I can figure it out, right? I can do it. I'm fine, right? And it was interesting when we plugged in a business coach, how much we were able to accelerate. Like just it was like adding fuel to the fire, right?
mhm. Yep. No, it was fantastic. And yeah, I feel like we should just give Stan Peak a shout out, right? Him and FSQ
Peak,
Consulting. Like,
Stan Peak.
and,
Yes.
we should maybe take this clip and do it. But yeah, I think, 2 years ago, roughly, we were in dire straits, right? We were
90
basically,
days dead. Do you remember
and
that?
yeah, we had like weeks left. No work, dead.
Dead.
And yeah, you're like, I think we need someone to kind of hit us over the head. And that's what
Wake us
Stan
up.
did, right?
Yeah.
Best
Yeah.
investment we ever made. But, one day I'll release some of the videos I made during that time, but they're a
I
a
know.
little bit
I
dark.
only got
Yeah.
two done. You did like a whole couple weeks worth. I only got two videos done, but I was watching them the other day and I was like, ooh, this is raw. Like it hurts to watch. But
Mm.
so why does this pertain to culture?
Mm.
And this was so funny. It was actually a conversation that came up. We were doing that amazing training course, influencing culture, right, for that
Mhm.
company. And we were talking with their leadership team, and this came up is that your company will only grow to the level that your leadership will grow.
Mm. Right?
And then I was thinking about that as in culture. So, like, if you don't have growth mindset around culture and around people and around keeping it fresh, right? Always taking it to 11, as we like to say,
Mhm.
your even your culture can get stale.
Well, and I think, one of the things we talked about, we always talk about how you're showing up, right? Are you showing up like this, or are you showing up like this? And I think as leaders, sometimes if we're like really upset, if we are feel like we're scrapping, then we show up with our team in that like, all right, like, versus like, all right, guys, we can do anything.
Right?
Let's keep on, let's figure this out, right? That is a same problems, same situation, but coming at it a little bit different. And one, I know if one of my teammates, one of my leaders or mentors, if you're worked up, I am immediately like worked up. So now I'm making decisions all day in a tense, like aggressive way,
Right?
right? And creativity doesn't live there, right? You can get maybe a lot of shit done in that mode sometimes,
Yeah.
but like you're not going to be super creative. You're not going to be collaborative. You're, it's just not. It's not sustainable, right?
Totally, totally. And this was funny because I called you yesterday, right? And
Mm,
one of your mentors was worked up, and then I called you. You were worked up, and I
mhm,
was like, "Whoa!" Like I could feel your energy, right? And you even you said to me, "You're like, oh, I'm really worked up," and it's because we care for our mentors so much, right? And it's
mhm.
mentorship's always two way, right? And it's really like it's so interesting. And if you think about that as leaders and culture and how we create the behaviors we want in our business, if we are not able to be self-aware and take a step back and say, "Ooh,
Mhm.
I'm not in my balcony. I'm in my basement right now. Like I am in like conflict mode." If we're not able to do that, we're going to show up that way and it's going to disseminate right through the team. And it's really interesting, and that's where this glass ceiling self growth, if your leadership team isn't looking to grow internally themselves and ensure that they are self aware, you're going to come up to these things in your culture.
Well, I remember, earlier on in our journey, I was feeling I had this belief that I was terrible at sales because I was quieter, I was a bit shyer, but wasn't like bringing the energy that you bring. And finally, an acquaintance as a coach was like, "It's all right, just ask good questions. That's all you need to do. Like, you're really good at that." And that was an amazing moment because she just like popped that false belief for me, and I was like, "Oh, cool! I don't have to pretend to be someone else to be a good salesperson. Can do it in my own way." And immediately I was like, "Oh, I'm actually pretty good," right?
Yeah,
And
and the results were huge
that
because you showed up
mindset,
authentically.
hmm yeah, it's a big deal, right? Versus like thinking that you got to be something different or whatever, right? And people can pick up on that lack of authenticity really fast.
Oh yeah.
Even if they can't quite
Oh
put their
yeah.
finger on it or whatever, right? Um, what other? What's an example for you? False beliefs.
False belief that I'm not good with numbers and I stayed out of the finances,
Interesting.
right?
Sure.
And so
Mhm.
this stems from like my dyslexic nature to flip things. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to touch anything. I don't want to like, I'll just be oblivious to it, right?
Mhm.
And I think that that has caused us hiccups in the past. And now that I'm like, okay, I don't need to touch the numbers, but I can analyze and look at trends and I'm actually good at that. That's what I should be
Mhm.
doing. And so like the false belief that I shouldn't live in there, right? And I think it's been powerful for us to have a second set of eyes.
Good one. Well, and I love these conversations. Let me get froze. Okay, I love these conversations because what false beliefs do we have right now? There's definitely some that I'm probably not even aware of right now, right? And that's the point of growth and training and thinking and talking and blah blah blah, and coaches and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like how many team members have we worked with? We're like, oh man, they have so much potential. They were just like could just believe that and be confident. They do anything, right? Um,
Yep.
and you see that actually in sports all the time, right? Very, very talented athletes, good enough to be the best, but like mentally are second guessing themselves or not quite sure or whatever, right? So
Right. Or get a piece of the yips.
there's the yes. What's the yes?
Oh, okay. And my Tad Lasso fans out here, the yips. It's like when they get a mindset belief like that they can't do something, right? That they've always been able to do. It's like the easiest thing. And then they mess up once and then it's like this, and then the yips, and then it's like
Mm.
contagious. It's like you're not even supposed to say it, right? And so like it's yeah, when you all of a sudden the thing that you knew you could do, you can't do anymore.
Mm. Gotcha. I love
It's
that.
all in here. It's all in
Right?
here. And the glass ceilings, the false beliefs that we like can create or don't even know are there.
Hmm. Right. And I think one of the hardest things for entrepreneurs, for leaders, is to ask for help, right? that
Oh
was
yeah.
hard for us to ask for help, I think, right?
Yeah.
But the
Get out
best
of
thing
our
that
own
we
way.
did, it pushed us to the next level. But whether you are an entrepreneur or a team member, or whatever, like that is such a sign of uh, a future successful leader is I have a stupid question, right? People
Yes.
are brave enough to do that, and everyone's like, "Oh, thank God," because I don't know either, right? And I honestly, and like in our own team, that's what I like watch for someone who's just like, I got a stupid question. Why are we doing this? This makes no sense, right?
Right? Challenge the status quo. I love that.
Mm,
I absolutely love that. And
mm,
I think like this was so the story that came out that I thought was super powerful is there was this leader who it was an entrepreneur who grew his business, from 0 to 5 million, and they decided to go from private to public. And
mm,
this leader in the private sector was like just the wealth of knowledge and expertise, and he was pushing and leading the team, and the growth was huge. And then when they went to private, the company turned to private, he wasn't used to the private sector. But he didn't relinquish that authority, right? And so he was still making decisions, even though he wasn't the expert in that area, but there wasn't the self awareness to be able to say, I'm not the best person anymore,
mhm.
right? Because there is still this false belief that he was the best person. And there's a point in time where we're not going to be the best people to lead our company. And that's kind of scary.
That's interesting. Yeah, knowing when you're the person, right? I've heard stories of, there's different types of CEOs companies need at different times, right? There's the turnaround guy who's going to like fix the ship, patch the holes. Then there's the growth guy,
Yeah.
and there's probably a few others you can think of, but like those two are rarely the same person. And rare is it that CEO is self-aware enough to be like, all right, everyone's like, oh man, it's been amazing. Last 5 years, like you just changed everything, you transformed us. And be like, yeah, but now you're ready, and I'm not the guy for that.
Right?
Like, wow. Right? Oh my God, we want to give you all our money. We love you. Yeah, but you're gonna hate me in a year because I'm not that
Yeah,
guy,
because in a
right?
year, I'm not the right
And
person anymore.
I've only
And
heard
so,
one
like,
story of a leader ever doing that, and I'm like, wow. I hope that I am that self-aware and strength of character one
right?
day to do that.
Well, hopefully we can keep each other accountable.
Right?
Like, we'll be like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, we're not cutting it anymore." He
Yeah,
could be
there
like, "Yeah,
you
you too, Caitlin.
go.
Alright, let's get out of our own way."
Yeah. Right. But I
Yeah,
think one thing that we're talking about it right now in terms of self-awareness is our team has grown, so we're now into uncharted territory for us, and now
yes.
part of our team's job is to push back on us, and the more we can encourage that, the better, as much as it can be frustrating for us because we've started this thing on crazy ideas and just frankly willpower.
Yep.
But now we still have that shiny thing, and that'll never go away, right? So we need our team members to be like, no, not right
Focus.
now, right?
Yeah,
Or
or even
yes,
challenge
but
us to be like, "Tell us why,"
mm,
right? Because
mhm,
like, I am probably the biggest culprit to the shiny thing syndrome, and
mhm,
because I love inventing and strategy and, like, that piece, and, and it's not that they should be like, "No," but they should be like, "Tell us why. What's the business case behind it?" And there's power in that because often I don't take the time to communicate that. So, if I want people to get behind these crazy ideas that I have, I need to be able to communicate the why in such a powerful way that they're like, "Watch out, we're with you." Right?
mm,
And I think that that's where there there is a false belief. There is a glass ceiling for me. I think that that's where I need to shine some
mhm.
light, my blind spot perhaps.
Okay, there you go. I love that. Yeah,
It's my
and
epiphany.
you kind of have to nurture it a little bit, right? Like I've noticed even our team members testing the waters. Like, hey, I know I've been a pain in your butt. Like I keep like marking up your stuff, or I always got these ideas and I know I'm blah, blah, blah. And, I'm often tempted to just dismiss, like, yeah, don't worry about it. But I think the little voice in my back has like, no, no, acknowledge this. Be like, yes, thank you. Like, this is why this makes me feel like you care and that you've got me and I've got, like, do you know what I mean? Like, don't
Right.
dismiss those like little tests that your team might give you, right? Because
Yeah.
they're testing your capacity for them to tap on your glass ceiling, right?
Right. Well, and honestly, I don't want complacent employees. I want
Mm,
employees who are willing to say, like, I don't agree, or I like that's an engaged employee, right? That it
mhm.
might feel frustrating because you're like, oh man, I've always got to have these like in-depth content. Though that is good. That's where innovation lives. That's where taking it to 11 lives is in those conversations. And so embrace that. Like nothing's worse than an employee like, oh, all right.
Right. Well, and I think innovation by its nature is inefficient, right?
Oh
We
yeah.
we sometimes try and like process things out so that they're so efficient, but like innovation, you have to be okay with just arguing about something for an hour and kind of not really getting a resolution, or all right, fine, let's try, or whatever, and then failing and then whatever, or do you know what I mean? Like, you I think you can be smart ways to put like bounds on it and allow it to happen in smart places, but you got to be okay with part of your business just being a little bit inefficient and just doing what it wants. And
Right.
that's sometimes a hard thing to
That's another
do,
mindset shift
right?
that leaderships need to be okay with. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, we've created this bubble where permission to fail is okay. Right.
Right, yeah, let's go with this. This is cool. I see how much work you put in. Let's try it. Maybe it's not the way I would have done it, but like, hey, you guys are into it. Let's try, right?
Right.
And if at the end of it I was right, I'm not going to say I told you so, right? So,
Yeah.
and usually I'm not. No one's 100% right, right? There's always it always takes you one step higher. So like it
Yep.
feels like little inefficiencies, but then boom, there's a leap. So like you actually leaped your company forward. You didn't slow it down, even though it feels in the moment slow, right?
Yeah. And then that's I
And
think a
I think
huge mind shift that entrepreneurs have to get through. Like this is a stage where they're like, I have to let go and let people do it their own way,
mm,
right? And it does not have to be exactly my way, right? And if they're not able to let go, right? Like trust but
mm,
verify, like the results are what you want, not the how necessarily. Like let it go, let people try and do it themselves and own it and be accountable. But if they can't do that, I think they create huge culture disengagement. But that is a mind shift to be able to let it go because especially entrepreneurs who bootstrapped it, right?
mm,
There's this belief that I'm the guy.
right. Well, and I think like when we run workshops, it's kind of a microcosm of this, right? Sometimes there's we got this agenda to get through, and yet we spend the first 2 hours like maybe on just like emotional stuff and it goes an
Yeah,
hour over. But we're always like, no, no, this needs to take as long as it can because then the rest will come easier, right?
yeah,
And same thing with culture stuff, with connection, with team building when it's important. It feels like you're putting the work aside and you're getting stressed.
yeah.
But all that's happening is you're like winding the spring and then boom, you go, right? Your
Stored energy.
capacity to deal with that stuff, like, but you have to really you have to believe it because in the moment it feels like you're not moving forward. It feels like you're pausing everything. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, this is important for like if you're creating a culture, and so not only does your leadership need to be self-aware, but the more self-aware your people are, right, the better they're going to show up. And so this this growth, this in like the personal growth of the leaders can limit the business, but also the personal growth of your employees, right? And I think that there's a huge, I think, like need for employees to be able to take ownership of their own self-growth and be like, "Okay, I need to challenge what I already know," right? Because imagine that, everybody unlocking their personal potential, um, and I think that can really, really, really improve culture because you you'll be so self-aware, you'll know you're in your basement, and know how to communicate it, like, "Adam, I'm not feeling the best today, and I'm probably not gonna show up the best," right? Is like,
Mm.
that's huge. That's huge. That's going to help the culture. It's gonna help your interactions and your communications. Because 'cause let's be honest, we're not always in our balconies. We're not always in our best selves. And so I think that that self-awareness, that mindset, that in like, personal growth is so huge for that.
Well, I like to think, we always talk about, startups in the garage, right? You and I figuring this out. No one is more engaged in doing this and willing to stay up late or do this or work more things or get out of their comfort zone or make the calls or show them do this and blah blah blah, bang on doors, than those 2 people or those 5 people or maybe even those 10 people, right? No one is more intensely engaged. And that doesn't have to mean that you're working more than 40 hours, but you are giving 250% in every minute of the day. Do you know what I mean? So now I
Yeah,
would like to extract that. Like imagine if 1,000 people were that intensely engaged in what they were doing. What
right?
would happen? Right? That's the power of culture. What would happen if you had 1,000 people or 100 people, or however big your company is, everyone was that intensely engaged? Holy crap!
Yes,
What couldn't you do? Right?
right? It's so true. It's so true, and, like, this is another false belief that I think a lot of leaders have, right? This is another glass ceiling. It's like, you need to be at your computer to be productive,
Hmm. Right.
especially especially like with the remote hybrid workforce, that kind of thing. They're like, "Oh, if you're not there, you're not doing work, you're not productive." That's that's not productivity, right? We have one employee that when he gets stuck, he goes walks his dog, and that gets him unstuck. And then he comes back and he's at that 250%. Otherwise, he'd be stalling out at like 50% trying to push through something, right?
Mhm.
The point of that. And so, like, we need to shift our mindset on what productivity is. It's not hours in front of a screen.
Yeah, I I agree with that. Right. That was a big shift for a lot of leaders to go to this hybrid or remote environments. And I hear a lot like, no, we are a collaborative team. We're in front of the whiteboards. And like, great, that's awesome. Um, but I think consider that there's more to collaboration than just being in person. It's definitely in person's better, but there are ways to do it. And I think maybe I don't know if it's a false belief or we're just turning our heads the other way, but like hybrid workforce, working from home, it's not going away. Newcomers in the workforce are expecting it. So you're going to fight this battle eventually.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, it's going to be one of those things that I think attracts talent if there is
Mhm.
that flexibility. But until leadership can break through their glass ceiling on what productivity is and what trust is and how to do performance with a remote or hybrid team and how to understand what performance looks like, there is going to be issues, right? And so we always say we're a results-based company. Like, we
Mhm.
look at the results, right? And thanks, Madura. Preach, right? So I think that the results-based company is one of those things where we really need to break that mindset of it's not a punch in, punch out, right? I mean,
Mhm.
some companies need that. They need the punch in, punch out. Everything is timed. That's fine. But, for a service-based company like ours, it's results. Did you take it to 11? Why do I care how long it took you then?
Mhm.
Like, you did it in an hour and you blew my expectations. Perfect.
Right?
Right?
Yeah. And I don't know. We're kind of used to it now, but I would be so excited if my top guy was like, you know what, I'm taking Thursday off. I'd be like, amazing. I'm so excited because I know how hard you've been working and it actually stresses me out that you're going to burn out. That is what I'm lying awake thinking about at 3 in the morning.
Totally.
Right? Like, so great, amazing. Go do that. I completely trust that you're not going to leave anything on fire, and it'll be fine, right?
Yeah,
So, um,
absolutely. Absolutely. And that's in a nutshell like why glass ceilings, false beliefs is so important at every level, right?
mhm,
At your employee level, at your leadership level, and having somebody external to be able to push you through to like I loved how you said that. Like you're walking through a cave with a flashlight, right? You
mhm.
only see where your flashlight shines. And you need somebody else to like grab a mirror or grab a second flashlight and be like, "Did you see over here?" Right? And that imagery really stuck with me when you said that.
Mhm. Well, and I think maybe I'll close with I think the hardest belief of all, whether you're an entrepreneur or not or whatever, is like, why are you doing this? This is a hard journey. It's not easy. So if you don't somewhere along the line acknowledge why you're doing it, and lots of times the why can start with like proving something to someone else or something like that. And if
Right?
you don't acknowledge that external motivation and bring it intrinsic versus extrinsic, you might not make it through. Because in those moments when you've got nothing left and you're totally effed and people are depending on you and you just want to crawl in a hole, that's not enough. So I think that is the hardest one of all that
Yes.
to get through, right?
That
That's
epiphany in that moment, you've got to have that. And it's there's so much in self-discovery, like your
mhm,
purpose and your why that is, I think, relevant. And I think this is where you get that 250% from your employees, actually, Adam, is like when they understand their why and it aligns with yours.
right there you go. Right,
But
that's
if they
another
haven't
thing.
done that self-discovery,
Hmm.
like it's kind of just like maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Like it's a guess, right? And
Hmm.
I think that's really powerful is when your people know their why, and it fits within the greater why of the company. Then you get 250%, right?
I love it. Amazing.
Well,
Okay, here's the
top of
second.
the
I
half
mean,
hour, just a
let's
little
finish.
30 minutes. What do you want to end on?
Hmm. I don't know. Got a good quote or something? I don't. I don't. Not one that pertains. But I think I'll just say that there's a reason why they're glass is because you see through it. It's hard to see, and
Right?
sometimes, often, you're the one that built it. So consider why you built it. And if you can figure that out, you can take it down.
And I'll end with the imagery. If you've ever watched that bee movie where it was Jerry Seinfeld was the voice of the bee, and he's like hitting his head against the window and going, "Maybe this time, maybe this time, maybe this time." That's what it is, right? It's like you're trying to move forward and you don't even understand why you're not going. And so, leaving you guys with that image and have somebody else like look at you and be like, "All right, let's just open the window." And now you can fly through, but you need that person to help you out. So awesome. All right, we'll see you next week
Amazing.
on our Culture Tips Live. Thanks for joining in, guys.